Okay, so we only have a few minutes left before people need to go. I'm going to abuse my power and I'm going to ask a question myself, if I may. Thank you very much for the very nice speech and for being here today and agreeing to address the Greek Energy Forum and the audience here in Thessaloniki. Now, earlier this year, we saw that a new initiative was being put forward, focusing on smart financing and smart buildings. And we understand that this is going to be released in autumn, along with the revisions on the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Energy Performance in Buildings Directive. Now, we understand that this vision does not stop on efficiency, and it's a vision that looks into building a new synergized platform for the big data economy of the 21st century. Now, the construction industry, being a central pillar to the Greek economy, might find this as a great opportunity in terms of development. So we were wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on this.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question, because I think here within this project you can see how the energy transition is actually linked with the economic transformation, because the idea for the smart approach came actually from several proponents of the Industrial Revolution, who are of course telling us that you always have this development economic leap if you have such a proper constellation of the breakthrough technologies in transport, energy and communication, how it was with steam, coal and telegraph, later on with oil, telephone and the mobile industry, so that now we are again in such a constellation with the big data, which are actually transforming every aspect of our economic behavior. And when we have this new technological developments in the field of communication, in the field of transport, but of course in the field of energy, how we can produce it, how we can store it. And some of these pilot projects which we are currently studied are actually developing these new synergized platforms around the bigger buildings. They see them as the nodes of this future synergized infrastructure, the buildings where you can charge your electric or hydrogen cars, where you can use them as a storage for the energy which was produced by intermittent renewables. The buildings which can actually not even use, but not only consume less, but even produce the energy. The building which can transmit the Wi-Fi signal, which is so important for all the young entrepreneurs. So how to make the buildings not only energy efficient and smart. And we are of course thinking hard how to do it. What would be the appropriate benchmarks? And I'm wondering myself how much of this new thinking we can include into the revision proposal which we are going to present in the autumn of this year. But this is clearly the way to the future, and I think when we would have a successful pilot project to present, we should, because I think it's every mayor's dream. I met hundreds of mayors. All of them want to build the smart cities. All of them want to have efficient public transport. All of them want to live in a cleaner environment. All of them are fighting traffic jams. So I think it's I would say something which is very appealing, and I think if we can help them to achieve it, we should definitely do so. What we are going to do with the smart financing. Again, when we looked, what are our financial resources? I mean, as in every administration, including the European one, you quickly discover that we have quite a few programs which are a little bit different, but also very often pursuing the same goals. And what we are now trying to do is to make sure that all the funds which are supporting this transformation of the cities, of the buildings, would be under one roof. So I mean, we are trying to really set up the one-stop shop, which we want to link together with this information website on the Juncker Investment Fund, where you would be pointed to the direction, if you are a mayor or if you're a private entrepreneur, where to go and how to present the project and how to apply for funds. We are looking for the ways how to go a little bit wider beyond the resources which are at our DG for energy. Therefore, we are working very closely with Irki Katainen, because it's responsible for the Juncker Investment Fund. We are working closely with EIB, European Investment Bank, and EBRD, because especially EBRD projects been quite popular with the mayors if it comes to the transformation of the cities. So we want to make sure that we will be able to offer the good advice and also good suggestions on the platforms, because current problem with this project is that they are usually very small for such a big bank. So you face the problems with legislative complexness of these issues. You face the problem how to aggregate the small projects to be interesting for bigger banks, how to involve the private sector in these projects, and this is what we are currently studying. I think we have two very good examples. One in France, where such a consortium was formed, and actually through Juncker Investment Fund we could release 400 million for 40,000 households, which are aimed at energy efficiency, and the smartening of these buildings, and the similar platform was created for Denmark. So I think we would need to develop this public-private approach, how to create this platform which would be, let's say, interesting for bigger banks, which can support it with their financial needs. What is, I think, very important to highlight is the fact that there is enormous appetite from the financial sector to support these projects. I had a meeting a few months ago with such a consortium of let's call them the green bankers. And they told me, we control the assets of 9 trillion euros. 9 trillion euros. I didn't know that we have that much money in Europe. And we want to invest in clean tech, in energy efficiency. We are not banks. We are mostly pension funds, so we do not need a return the next year. But we need the good projects. We need the good aggregates of the project, so we can really think a little bit big, and we can plan it over the long time. So that's, I think, the challenge which we face: how to tap into this potential, into this, I would say, the interest of this modern financial sector, to channel the money where we know that you will have a guaranteed return, because you can save on the energy, you can save on the energy bill, and you can actually bring the new business models to our cities. Value added, or I would say cherry on the top, very often when you talk about the energy efficiency renovations, these are done by small local companies. These are not some kind of multinationals who come from I don't know where and will just take over the market. This is done by the local people, by the SMEs. This can create a lot of local jobs, bring a lot of know-how in the cities, in the country. So I think it's in our own interest to grasp this opportunity, to develop it, and really to make sure that we would channel this financial interest into where we need it, where the citizens would see it and would really appreciate it, and that would be this smart transformation of our buildings.
Thank you very much. Do we have time for one question from the audience?
Yes, I think that my colleagues are not nervous yet, so yes.
Shall we take two? One here and one from Minister Mañan, ex-foreign minister.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome a friend of Greece, the Vice President, and a friend of all of us, Maros Sefcovic in Greece. Welcome. We were pleased to listen to your vision on energy union, a vision which we fully share in Greece. And I recall a day in Brussels, about 1.5 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago, when I had the privilege to explain to Maros, with the help of my Cypriot Minister of Energy, George Lakotripis, the usefulness and the effectiveness on a map of the EastMed pipeline and the usefulness for the energy security in Europe. And I can assure you, Maros, we can assure you that this project is not the most expensive project among all the alternatives. In any case, with the support, I want to say publicly, that with the support of Maros Sefcovic, the project of TAP was advanced. We had the privilege to sign the first implementation documents. I'm talking about the environmental impact assessment, a very heavy administrative document, and then we ratified it. We brought it and ratified it in the Greek Parliament. So we are here today in an extremely interesting ceremony for a Greece that has a concrete, important geostrategic role in the whole European energy environment. And we want again to thank you for your presence here. Thank you very much.
Yep. Over there.
My name is Chikouras Petros. I'd like to ask why the European Union allows retroactive reduce of prices in feed-in tariffs of photovoltaic producers. And don't you believe that this has a very bad influence in investor confidence in the whole energy sector?
And let's take one from director, if it's possible.
My name is Periklis Mitkas. I'm the rector of Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, an electrical engineer myself. This European Energy Union is a fine goal that will certainly generate an abundance of jobs and also an abundance of technological challenges and problems. Will you have enough scientists and engineers? Do you expect that you will need more? And if yes, in what specialties? It would be nice to know. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The first question on retroactive photovoltaic feed-in tariff changes. Now, this is, of course, the issue which is very problematic for many EU member states, and I know that there are difficult discussions in the number of countries. And from one side, we've been the first to just jump forward with the introduction of renewables. We're setting the feed-in tariff schemes, and I think thanks to Europe, we actually get the renewable industry and photovoltaic industry on the move, and we started the process. So, of course, as a pioneers, you always pay a certain price. We've been first to introduce the emission trading system, and now we realize we have to adjust it. And the same is happening in some of our member states, where the feeling is, especially if you go through the economic crisis as we had in Europe, and I know that how many difficult choices the Greece had to make to overcome the crisis. So then, of course, each leader, each finance ministry, each energy ministry is looking at what's financially possible, what's sustainable, and therefore, if you look at the documents coming from especially the leaders, like the European Council, where the heads of states and government are meeting, so cost efficiency is underlined and highlighted, I would say, very often in every conclusions they make. Of course, what is the preference of the European Commission, and we try to help, is if we can debate these changes in, I would say, constructive manner. Sometimes I would say that the stakeholders and the government would agree, yes, at that time the situation looked different, there have been some unforeseen costs, or it became too expensive, so let's look for some kind of sustainable settlement. The countries which achieve it, like for example Portugal, then the situation is much calmer, much more conducive for further innovations. But we have the countries where these disputes ended up in the courts. There is a lot of I would say mutual accusation, and atmosphere is very difficult. And I think that also the future investment in that part will not be easy to get. So. As you know, we have certain powers in this area, but most of the powers here is with the member states. So what we can do is to try to call for the solutions which would be aimed at preserving the good investment climate, the solutions which would preserve the investment platforms for the future, when we know that the goals in many of our member states for 2020 are already fulfilled or almost fulfilled. But we know that this is not the end of it, that by 2030 we would need in the field of renewables at least 27%, that the pressure for energy efficiency would require even more of these new technologies. So that's our plea. Therefore, we also want to change the new and present new electricity market design, because we see that especially the integration of renewables into the whole energy mix and electricity generation should be looked at from the new perspective. Therefore, we are also going to revise the renewables directives as such, and we are also thinking what would be the best to do in the state aid guidelines for the renewables, so they would reflect the challenges of today. So it's very complex issue where, of course, member states have strong powers and they have sometimes very different views. But what we'll try to do is to produce the modern framework within which hopefully we can avoid the problems of the past and can set the platform for new, more conducive environment in this field. And thank you very much to Rector for his question, because I think it's a very important one, because we are now in the situation where we have still millions of young people, very often educated at very good universities, who are very intelligent but extremely frustrated, because unfortunately they have chosen the field where they're experts, but where they cannot find the job on the labor market. And it's enormous waste of European talent, and I think it's enormous frustration of intelligent young people who then turn to the simple solution, to different protest votes and to anti-establishment feelings. And that's a pity, because I'm sure they would like to channel their energy to something which is positive, and they can find the feeling of self-fulfillment. And I think, therefore, we need to discuss even more often with our member states and within the member states, because if it comes to education, that's very much in the hands of the governments. What would be the professions of the future? And I can tell you, when I visit the universities which deal with the clean tech, which are of technical origin, which are working with energy transition, economic transformation, which are in the field of data economy or informatics. So when I ask the director, so what is the employability of your students? So they are telling me that it's 100%, and we can even place on the market even more, because there is enormous interest in this field. So I think that if it comes to all the professions which I described, they are clearly the professions of the future, and I think that it would be extremely useful for European economy and for our young generation if we can introduce some requalification courses, even for those who already graduated, just to give them the opportunities to benefit from these new tendencies. Because in the future, most of the products the companies would sell would be based on data mining, would be produced on customized service, would be produced on I would say instant demand, and that's what I think it's very natural for the young generation, because I call them digital natives. It's much easier for them to handle all the smartphones and computers. I mean, at least if I have any problem with my iPhone, I know that my 15-year-old son will fix it much faster than me. Yeah.
Yourself, eh?
Yes, but I'm still struggling with that. It's my Christmas present, and therefore I think that we I think should try to motivate our educational establishment how to offer those who are struggling on the labor market the second opportunities to develop this new specialization. And usually, as we know from all the big inventors, the people who come from different educational backgrounds, with different experiences, are the most creative and our biggest asset to any creative teams, and that would be the chance for all those who studied something which they like, but within which they cannot find a job, with the demand which we clearly have here, because the last figure I would mention is that if it comes to the IT, we would miss like 1 million IT experts between now and the end of this decade, and I think it's better to develop that workforce here in Europe than to look for the talents outside of our continent. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the new energy future of Europe starts today. I might exaggerate and say that it starts from Thessaloniki here today. So let's all spread the word. Let's all start working about it. Thank you very much. And before doing that, let me please thank in Greek the sponsors for today's event, Gigilinis Shipping Group, ΕΠΑ Θεσσαλονίκης και ΕΠΑ Θεσσαλίας για την σημαντική οικονομική συνεισφορά τους στην σημερινή εκδήλωση. Σας ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ και δημόσια γι' αυτό. Τους media sponsors μας, την τηλεόραση του Sky, το energypress.gr, το οποίο μετέδωσε και live τη σημερινή εκδήλωση, με τη βοήθεια της Live Media, που επίσης είναι ανάμεσα στους χορηγούς και την οποία εταιρεία ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Και τέλος, τους υποστηρικτές της εκδήλωσης, το Ελληνογερμανικό Εμπορικό Επιμελητήριο και το διευθυντή του Ματίας Χόφμαν στην Βόρεια Ελλάδα, καθώς επίσης και ένα πολύ δυναμικό group νέων επιχειρηματιών, μια μη κυβερνητική οργάνωση, την νεανική επιχειρηματικότητα, τους οποίους επίσης ευχαριστούμε για τη θερμή υποστήριξη. Να είστε όλοι καλά, ευχαριστούμε πολύ.